including David in Fairmont, Minnesota. Hi, David. You are first with Tim.
Hey, yeah.
Hey, David.
So, my question is about the nature of the church. My buddies and I were talking, and they were really only feeling that the church is just the people that make up the church, and that there isn't anything more to the church.
Right.
But all grace comes from God through the church.
Correct.
I'm just wondering if a Native American who had never met somebody or ever heard of Jesus still has a chance to get to heaven, which requires sanctifying grace.
Right.
How would they receive that grace if the church is just the people of the church?
Gotcha. Well, let me jump in, David, because you've got several questions here, and thank you for your call. First of all, when we talk about the church, properly speaking, remember, David, people will speak of the church as meaning the entirety of the body of Christ. The Catechism of the Catholic Church, for example, in paragraph 830, talks about the definition of the Catholic Church, and it refers to the Greek word for church being ekklesia, which means the called out ones. So, in a loose sense, you can say that the church consists of the called out ones, those who are separated unto God through baptism and such. However, that same paragraph there in paragraph 830 also points out that the church also has this sort of double meaning. It means the word itself comes from a couple of Greek words as well, or a preposition in a word, kataholikos, that is, that which is according to the whole. And that gets at that understanding that you were just mentioning, David, and whether you knew it or not, you were actually referencing Ephesians chapter 1, verses 22 and 23, where Jesus says that the church is the body of Christ, the fullness of him who fills all and is in all. So the church is Jesus Christ extended into this world. So just as Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, and the life, no man can come to the Father except through him, right? John 14:6. Well, the church is Jesus Christ extended into the world. Therefore, the church is necessary for salvation because all grace comes through the church. Now, secondly, when he talks about the church as just being the quote-unquote people of God, again, in a very loose sense, there's truth to that. However, the Bible is very, very clear. When St. Paul talks about the church, for example, go to Ephesians chapter 4, verse 11. He says, God has placed in the church apostles, prophets, pastors, evangelists, and teachers for the work of the ministry, for the building up of the body of Christ, till we all come to the unity of the faith. Now, I'm skipping a couple verses there. And why? Verse 14 says, so that we henceforth be not children, tossed to and fro with every wind of doctrine. So notice the church consists of a hierarchy, right? Apostles, prophets, and remember, David, St. Paul asks a rhetorical question in 1 Corinthians 12. Where is that? About verse 26. Are all apostles? No. Are all prophets? No. So everyone's not an apostle. So we have a hierarchy. This is why Jesus can say in Matthew 18:15 through 18, David, that if our brother offends against thee, we go tell him his fault between him and us alone. If he hears us, we've gained our brother. If he won't hear us, we take one or two with us, that in the mouth of two or three witnesses every word may be established. And if he will not even hear them, you tell it to the church. So notice there's a hierarchy here, right? You go to your brother, can't sell it, take one or two, but still can't sell it, you take it to the church. So there is the church that is hierarchical, that has authoritative voices in it, namely the apostles and their successors, the bishops, and St. Peter and his successors, the popes. So that's important to lay out here. But now the next part of your question, though, is a very good one. What about those who don't have access to the church? Someone that's out in the middle of the jungles of Africa and has never heard of the church. Is there the possibility of salvation? And the Catholic Church says yes, though all grace ultimately comes through Jesus Christ and his church, those graces can reach souls in extraordinary ways. The Catholic Church teaches that if someone is truly and invincibly, and that's key, invincibly ignorant of the truth. For example, David, in 1949, the then Holy Office responded to a particular situation going on, centered in the Archdiocese of Boston, with what we call now the Feeneyites, who were teaching a sort of strict interpretation of no salvation outside the church. The church responded to that and said, while, in essence, while it is true there's no salvation outside of the church, that's an infallible teaching, the graces of the church can reach to people who are where they are through no fault of their own. That's what the church means by invincibly ignorant. They're not culpable they're not responsible for their ignorance. And if, in ways known to God alone, supernatural faith, charity are being communicated to that person by grace, and they are responding to those graces, David, ultimately those graces come through Jesus and his church, but they are disseminated in ways that sometimes we're not privy to. We are privy to the way those graces are distributed in some contexts. For example, Orthodox believers who have all 7 sacraments. They are real, they are valid, and thus graces are communicated. Protestants who have 2 valid sacraments, presumably, right? Baptism and marriage, those are real avenues of grace. So again, for those who are invincibly ignorant in those communities, and God alone is the judge of who these people are. We evangelize everybody, but if in fact you do have some who are invincibly ignorant and they cooperate with the grace of God where they are the best they can, God alone is the judge of whether they meet that criteria or even what the criteria ultimately are, then they have the possibility of salvation. So the same can be said, or analogously, for those who are outside of the Christian faith, don't have baptism or anything. The fellow in the jungle that we were talking about before, even though he doesn't have baptism, it's the Catechism of the Catholic Church talks about this in paragraph 1260 and 1261. The Catechism says that those who have not been baptized may receive the graces of baptism through that desire and their cooperation with grace. And the Catechism says they would have received baptism if they would have known about it. So, that's kind of a thumbnail, David. Does that help at all?
Well, I was more wanting to focus on, besides just the people of the church, even the hierarchical, the
Yes.
Pope and the cardinals, is there still more, a second, in the Catechism 770, it says the
Right.
visible and the spiritual
Yes.
reality of the church.
Right.
Is there more to it than just the people who are in the church or have been in the church through history?
Yeah, absolutely, David, because what I just said applies here, and I appreciate that follow-up, because let's be clear that we have both visible members of the church and invisible members, namely the church suffering and the church triumphant, right? We have saints in heaven you and I can't see, but they are members of the body of Christ, in fact, more radically than we are. The members of the church suffering in purgatory are members of the church. And then, of course, that extends to those that are baptized outside of the visible boundaries of the Catholic Church that are truly possibly in a state of grace and such. And again, God's the judge of that. Those are members of the church, even though the church makes clear, for example, in Lumen Gentium, paragraph 16, if you want to take a look at that, David, from the Documents of Vatican II, it's an excellent little synopsis there, but talks about how that folks can be either related, it uses 2 different words there in the Latin text, related to the people of God or even imperfectly joined to the people of God. Those outside, the unbaptized, for example, it uses the term can be related to the people of God by that desire that we talked about before and their cooperation with grace right where they are. And those who have valid sacraments, like our Protestant friends and the Orthodox, are actually joined to us, though in an imperfect union. So all of that, my friend, involves that invisible reality. Now, those of us that are Catholic, we're on the registry at our local parish. I can see Chris Checky sitting right here. I can see Nick Chamberlain is sitting out here in the control room. They are visible members that I can look at. But there's all sorts of folks who are either related or joined to us imperfectly and such that I can't see, as well as the church militant and suffering, or the church triumphant and suffering, as I said before. Does that help, David?
Well, so they're beyond the people, though. The church isn't somewhat of an entity on its own.
Sure it is. Absolutely it is. The church is, once again, Ephesians 1, 22 and 23. And check out the catechism, too, in paragraph 830. The church is the body of Christ, but we are the mystical body of Christ. And so that mystical body includes all that I mentioned before. But it's not beyond, I don't know what you're getting at there, beyond the people. We're not talking about dogs, cats, birds, and bats here, right? But we're talking about those who are related to or joined to the church, either imperfectly or more perfectly. That is, those of us who are members of the Catholic Church formally have our names signed on a registry. Is that what you're getting at, David?
Well, kind of. I mean, just like if there weren't, like the church is an entity somewhat on its own, though, even independent of the people. Yeah.
Yeah,
like it's not just
it's the body
people.
of Christ. It's the body of Christ. Yeah. That's right. If I leave it, I don't hurt the church whatsoever. I hurt myself. The church is a definitive reality, but it is confined to the body of Christ. It is the body of Christ. That is the definitive reality. And those of us who, we are either joined to or not joined to that definitive reality, which is the body of Christ, the Catholic Church. Appreciate your call, brother.